Well, indeed, the Quran comes 600 years after Jesus, but from a Muslim point of view, the Quran is the Word of God, and hence it doesn't matter if it came 6 million years after the fact. God, as elephants do not forget, neither does God. So if God reveals the Quran to Muslims, whatever the Quran says to Muslims, that for us is the truth. But one might ask, well, having already the New Testament documents, why do we need a book like the Quran? Well, look at the New Testament documents. The earliest of the 4 Gospels is the Gospel according to Mark, followed by Matthew and Luke, and then finally John. John contradicts the other 3 Gospels, which are called synoptics because they're often together in contrast with John, on very important points. For example, was the body of Jesus wrapped in spices or not? John says yes. The other Gospels show no, because the women were still buying spices on the Saturday and they went on the Sunday morning to anoint the body of Jesus. So this is a major discrepancy. Because whereas in fact the synoptic Gospels were trying to show that the women knew how Jesus was buried, this fact alone shows in fact they didn't really know if John is correct or is John wrong. When was Jesus actually crucified? According to the Gospel of John, he was crucified on what we would refer to as 14th Nisan, because according to John, that was the day before the eating of the Passover meal. According to the Synoptic Gospels, it was the following day. And since Jesus wasn't dead, didn't die twice, then obviously either John is right or the Synoptics are correct. What about the Synoptics? Do they always agree with each other? In fact, when one compares the Gospels one after another, one will see that the same event in the life of Jesus or concerning his death is rewritten in the subsequent Gospels. Mark first, followed by Matthew and Luke. Look what Matthew does to Mark's Gospel. Mark has it that the women were coming to the tomb on the Sunday morning and they were wondering, who's going to roll away the stone for us? Matthew's Gospel has it that when... to continue with Mark for a moment, so they arrive there and they find that the stone had already been rolled. So there's no problem, nobody has to roll the stone, right? Over to Matthew's Gospel. Matthew's Gospel has it that as the women were approaching, angels came down from heaven and rolled away the stone. So the way it is told in Matthew's Gospel, it is clear to many biblical commentators that Matthew deliberately reworded the event to have it such that the women would witness the rolling away of the stone. Because if the stone was rolled previously, one might wonder who rolled the stone and who took away the body. But if the women can see that the stone is being rolled in their very presence, well then the question is answered. Nobody rolled away the stone but the angels. Nobody took away his body. He actually came out alive from the tomb. So you see, the later Gospels are rewriting the story in order to cover up problems and difficulties with the event. Were there guards at the tomb? Matthew's Gospel is the only one that says that there were guards at the tomb. And today, almost universally, critical biblical scholars reject that as an invention on the part of Matthew. Even if you say it was not an invention, the story fails to do what it was meant to do. It was meant to tell us that the guards were there so nobody could have taken away the body. But the guards were, according to the story, placed there on the Saturday. What happened on the Friday night? Now, you might think, well, the guards must have checked to see that the body was there, but the story doesn't mention that. You can assume that, but assumption is not the same as fact. The body could have been removed on the Friday night. This is a real possibility, and this has been acknowledged by Dr. William Lane Craig in his article on the guard at the tomb, even though he accepts that there is a guard and he tries to prove that there is a guard. And of course, he believes that Jesus rose from the dead. He doesn't believe that anybody took the body, but he acknowledges that this is a real possibility. The tomb was unguarded on the Friday night, and the story doesn't say that they checked to see that the body was still there when they placed the guard and sealed the stone the following day. Did Jesus actually die on the cross? Well, the Gospel according to John says that a spear thrust was put in his side, and one might think that that surely killed him. But historians generally believe today that that spear thrust is not historical. John has introduced that into the story. It is not mentioned in the Synoptics, and John has introduced that for his own theological reasons. Partly, some say, to make sure that everyone would know that Jesus actually died because he was speared in the side. Well, take away the spear thrust, which is not historical. What is the fact then about the story? What actually killed Jesus? There's nothing. Crucifixion doesn't actually kill a person by itself, What kills the person is exhaustion and shock that results from a prolonged hanging on the cross, sometimes for a couple of days. But according to the gospel record, Jesus was there only for a few hours. This is why when Joseph of Arimathea requested his body for a private burial, Pilate, under whose auspices Jesus was said to have been crucified, wondered if Jesus could have died so soon. He inquired of the centurion, who confirmed, but the centurion was by this time a Christian and had no reason to want to see Jesus dead. So in short, even though the Quran comes 600 years later, to Muslims this is the word of God telling us the truth. مَا قَتَلُوهُ وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُمْ. They killed him not, nor crucified him, though it did appear to them as if they had done so. Thank you.